Hi, I'd like to show you how to reline a writing box. I think first we should say about removing the old lining. You have to find out what type of glue it's held down by first. If it's a modern glue, you've got real problems. If it's a proper glue that you should have, which is a water dissolving glue, you should be able to just wet the old lining, the damaged old lining, soaks through to the water washable glue underneath, and then you can pull it off and then wash it again and scrape away the softened glue afterwards. If it's something like Bostik, which is a rubbery type glue, you can use an iron, a normal smoothing iron. Just be careful not to get it too close to the polish around the edges, and you can heat up that sort of rubbery glue and it will go sort of crispy, and you can scrape that off. If it's something like a waterproof cascamite, which goes like concrete, well, you're going to ruin the edge of your chisel, but you have to scrape that off as well, and it's a real slow job. Anyway, once you've done that, then you've got to key the surface. So you just need, I mean, for big surfaces I had special planes for this with a sort of like a serrated edge, but for this sort of thing I use a broken hacksaw blade, and just be careful again not to go over the edge onto the polish. So just work from the corner diagonally, scratching the surface. This sort of preparation is the same as for when you're veneering. Anything you're sticking down on the wood that's fairly thin like that, this gives it actually creates some extra surface area to the wood, and allows the glue to work better. Especially where these folding joints are. You want it nice and roughed up, because the glue has to work especially hard here. And across the other way, to give this hatched prepared surface. Got to go up to the edge, otherwise it won't stick down there. Okay, let's get the brush. You notice here these slots here that have been filled in. They're for the tabs that you lift these up with. I'm not going to leave these open or anything, because the lining we're putting on here has a tooling, and these are supposed to line up with the tooling, so yeah, I don't think the tooling on this, the new tooling, lines up with these, so we'll cut new slots for them. Right, now you've got to make sure that it's all been waxed. All the repairs are done, and you've waxed the veneers around the edge, because that wax will protect the glue from damaging your polish. Now, the glue I use. Reach it. Shorter here. I use this wallpaper paste. Right. It's, I'm not getting paid for this. It's Lapwall cold water starch. So it's called cold water paste. It's a wallpapering paste, and we use it, and we add a little bit of the wood glue, which sort of thins it out. I'll show you what we're doing. So we're just taking a little bit of water. That's about, you don't need an awful lot because it's a very small lining. Perhaps about 1/4 of an inch of water in the bottom of there. And you put in the paste, say about that much, let's say about 2 dessert spoonsful, something like that perhaps. Mix that in, see how it goes. We want to get this to go almost into a solid state, like jelly sort of state I suppose, which is how it's normally used for putting up your wallpaper. And it's gradually hardened up. Really for this I prefer it to be thinner than that and also a bit more sticky, so we use a bit of the this pearl glue. This is normal woodworkers, well, old-fashioned woodworkers glue, made from little pearls of glue. It's an animal glue anyway. So we'll just put a bit in here. Don't want to put any lumps of glue in there if possible. Just a couple of, what's its names of it. And do that, it tends to make it a lot, so it's already going quite a bit thinner. Well, it's all sort of like just your own judgment to get it to not too thick a paste, because you don't want little balls of it on top. And that should do that. So that we can leave for a sec. Just get the lining out. We'll get this around the right way. Oops. You see they've marked a little line to the measurements. Obviously I've taken the measurements, sent them off to a supplier of these linings. A company called Essex Gallery supplies them, and by post, quite reasonable. Yeah, this isn't hide. This is not cow's cow leather. It's sheep's leather, so it's a lot softer and thinner. And you want it a bit thinner, really. And you can get goat's hide, which is what they call Moroccan or Moroccan bound books. You've probably heard of. That's thinner still, and is quite expensive, but this is quite a reasonable price. And actually that tooling isn't that far from the line there, or that one. But anyway, we'll cut through and make our own slots, I think. Okay, so that seems to be okay. The underneath, sometimes they got bits of wood chip and God knows what else on there. So you don't want that causing little lumps and bumps. Brush it off. parcel tape on them. Dear, dear. Pretty well it. Right. Can stop with it now. Now, brush this off again. Now to do the, get this other lining out of the way, I'm not doing that today. To do the lining you need one of these, which is a standard roller. It's they use it for printing and that sort of thing. It's got a rubber covering. You don't want to be. You want something that rolls, otherwise it pushes the skiver along, and you're continually moving off the line that you want it to be on. Right, it's gone a bit harder now. I've left it, so right. If you leave it a while, it does. You don't get those sort of like slightly dry lumps. It should all of be okay now. We've put it on reasonably thick. Perhaps a 1/16 of an inch, and get it right up to the edge. As I say, with your waxy veneers, if you do go over a bit, or it gets squeezed out onto the veneers, it won't stick to the polish and rip it off when you clean it. Plus it's water washable, so it will dissolve any waste on the edge. You can clean off either before or after it dries. Okay, so while you're doing this, keep an eye open, because there's bound to be bits of the brush that have come off, and I don't know, stuff always seems to get into this. So all the time you're checking other things while you're doing this. Yeah. If there's any lumps, get them out now if possible. Now, if you're doing skiver like that, you can trim it straight away, because skiver won't shrink back afterwards. But if you're using something like billiard cloth, possibly felt, which the older boxes were always lined in, then you've got to leave it to dry, because if you trim off the remainder, it will shrink back and leave a gap afterwards. Okay, I think that's okay. I just realised I've forgotten something. Normally I run round with a larger Stanley knife. I think I'll do it now, but while you can see where the edge of the veneer and the lower line section is, you can run a knife along. It gives you a kind of a track. Well, you don't do it wrong. For later cutting the trimming off the waste. This is where the skill comes in. If you run either way, it's a bit of a disaster. By the way, there's only 6 minutes of battery left. You might have to show this on another box if the battery. Oh, there's another battery, isn't there? Yeah. Don't rush me for God's sake. Put my hand in the glue now. So. Yeah, the actual top is soaking up a bit of the liquid in the glue there, so it's getting a little bit dry. So I think that will be okay. Hopefully I've got it the right way around. Well, measurements. Well, it wasn't square in the first place, the whole thing, so you can't really blame them. But, rarely do these things entirely line up. You just got to get it best compromise that you can. I think that's about it. This corner doesn't want to quite line up. All the rest seem to be pretty close to it. That's perfect. Keep flicking it over like that and you should be able to remember where the line was. That seems to be okay. Perhaps could go that way a little bit. That one's dead on that way and could go that way a little bit. And that one's again dead on but could go that way a little bit. But they're not really overlapping down there. A bit of a tug, but that's what we'll do is try and stretch the hide a little bit that way. We're using this not too hard, otherwise you'll create lines where the edges of the roller are. Right, well I better run over a few things that we did before because the battery ran down and I'm not sure when it went off. We had glued down the top and I was just rolling down the surface. As I said, you don't roll too hard, especially when the glue is wet like that, because the skiver will, if you make a mark in it, it will keep that mark, it will stay set in there as it dries out. So you want to gently roll it, but you do want to concentrate on these areas where the folds are. So make sure that that's well done. Now that's what I was doing yesterday. We've left it to dry overnight.
The edges.
And I pressed in the edges before it dried just with my fingernail to make sure it gets as close in as possible. But if it doesn't, once the glue is dried, we can put a roller over that, a warm roller, and it will melt the glue underneath and stick down what's left. Right, so I'm going to be cutting to that line that I've vapored the nail. Now I want to make sure I've put the line in the right place, so I'm going to start by one of the shorter edges, just bringing it in with the knife, which is as sharp as I can get it. We'll try and see where the veneer ends and the inset starts, which I think is about there. Fill resistance. Now you don't want to cut at an angle that way, because if you do, well, that shows properly this. If you're cutting at an angle that way, you're going to show a very light edge of the lever. So if you want to go straight or even slightly that way, but not the other way. So I'm starting off trying to just make sure I start in the right place. I'm trying to find that line that I'm marked with the big Stanley knife. Even so, I'm not going to just risk sweeping down the edge here, as I'm sure an expert liner would do, because all restorers are jack of all trades, master of none, and it's best to take it a bit slowly, so I haven't had constant practice at doing this. You got to watch when you get to the places where the box folds over, because sometimes it's not quite lined up as you'd like it, and you run straight onto the veneer. I mean, it's not a disaster, but you want to avoid it if possible. You can see a few bits have stuck on to the edge there, but with a wet cloth we can not, wash the glue off and it'll be okay. So I'll try and get this all the way back without scratching the. Okay. Let's turn it. You can see where the joint is there, so you can have a pretty good guess of where your veneer is going to be.
Today he was discoursing to the students at the University of Louisville. Freedom means being able to follow your religion. I cannot fight in an unbeliever's war. I cannot fight in a war that is not a Muslim holy war. He was glad not to be fighting in Vietnam, but disbarred from fighting in the ring. Ali could express his religion, but not his God-given talent for boxing. As he drove me from the lecture theatre, I was fearless enough to broach the subject. The fearlessness, as we know, is a characteristic of Britishness. His as well. Sir, is there any compromise with your authorities that will allow you to return to the region? Compromise? There's compromise in that. Before Vietnam and the government's expense, whole boxing exhibitions for the troops, film playing jokes and Bonaparte. I could do all of that, but I ain't doing none. I'm sticking to what I believe is right. I say with you. We arrived at Louisville's Columbia Auditorium.
It's starting to go off a bit now. They're getting ambitious. That's it. Back on track. Trim that bit off later.
This was an oft-told story, and it yet carved and polished in Italian. I did not feel it was truly relevant. As a biographer, it was difficult to me. I stuck to what I believe is right. Sir, I do not believe that is true. What? That's I can go to the night and
Yeah, you've got to watch one like that. You expect the corner to come at the end of this joint here, and it's actually a bit further up. So whoever did this didn't quite get his angles right. It's going off, I see. Once again. Trying to rush it. That's it.
Where are you going? The other side of the street. Get back here. I will come a little closer to this, sir. Dangerous. Ain't dangerous to me. Well, forward band. Forward You think son of Liston let me know when the punch is coming? You think not right? Do it. A sort of listlessness seized me. I couldn't leave no part of my body. But it was the will of Muhammad Ali, the greatest war. 3 feet to his right was a dog. I aimed at the dog. Whoa! Don't aim at the dog. Come on now, throw that rock. This is most awful. Did I hurt you? Got me slap dab in the middle of the stomach. I'll fetch a doctor, sir. Who do I need a doctor for? Tell me I should get out the way? I cannot believe it. I hit Muhammad Ali with a rock. I am the greatest. I float like a haggis, I sting like a thistle, the lasses they pucker their lips and whistle. Can't do the Harlem shuffle. Can't flow like a butterfly no more. I'm old and slow. I ain't the greatest no more. Those days are gone. The listlessness that seized me now seized him. He could not move. The Lion of Louisville slouched like a slumbering goose. I never saw him so low. Truly, he was in the wilderness and saw no way out.
This particular lining seems to be a little bit hairy and a bit sticking out there, so I'm going to have to trim that again probably.
How can I rise again, Jim? I am a man of words. When I get back in the ring, that's what happens when you can't dance your way out of trouble. I am sure you'll adapt to your new circumstance and find a way to win without harm. An adaptation will help me drastically. Never again will that be fantastic. So be it. Contrive that adaptation and you'll get a score to your life position. You're right. Evolution is the only solution. Give me a minute. That'll work. You're the inspiration for my fighting adaptation. I am glad, sir. What is it? You'll find out. You whooped me good, Jimmy Mac. You got me with your rock attack. I took the pain. I took the flack. And now I want to hit you back. No, I cannot throw another rocket at you, sir. I'm too good at it. I will not work. No rocks. We fight with words. We'll have a rhyming match. 15 team rounds. May the best sword win. Hit me with rhymes, Jimmy Mac. What rhyme? Sir, you straight to the site. No, it's a boxing match with rounds instead of punches. So come on, man. Stand real close to me and hit me with your best rounds. Let me understand, sir. You want my words to hurt you. You got it. Help me be the greatest again.
Right. I did keep some glue here just in case any of these edges are loose, but they seem to be okay. And I'm going to press them down with the wheel. It's hot, but it's not sizzling hot, so you don't want to set fire to it. You just want to heat up the skiver and run along, squeeze it down the edge and glue it nicely when you melt the glue underneath. So, it doesn't really show it. If you use it a lot hotter, it will leave a mark of the these tooling marks are put on by a wheel, much like this, but with carved sections on it. I think that's hot enough actually. It's pretty hot.
He stood there, his fists and forearms upraised in front of his face, while my blows landed upon him. And then came round 8. My rhymes were ragged now, my lips were like jelly, my scansion was exhausted. Ali, you can fight with your fists, so why can't you fight with a rifle to kill communists? You know what is the matter with you? You are the matter with what rhymes with you? Ali, you're in trouble. Many a mickle marks a muckle. Look into my eyes, cause I'm all seeing. I'm staring into the heart of your being. I got heavyweight principles. I'm doing our best. damn. From these lightning blows to your neck, you ain't never coming back. You hurt your chance. I'm on the floor. That's it, you in. I can take no more. Thank you, folks. Ali is back with help from my main man, Jimmy Mac. I took the pain, and then I came right back again. I waited till his strength was sapped, and then I went whappity, 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 whap. June 20, 1970. The Supreme Court reversed Ali's conviction for refusing induction to the armed forces.
I'll trim these off now that it's pushed down like that. These little bits of they might be stuck there actually with the glue that's pushed out, I don't know.